As far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to be on the big screen. Being in Hollywood, being an actor. In this episode, you're going to find out how I got my big break. Stick around. I'll be right back. In my mid-20s, I was well into my law enforcement career. A career that I quite enjoyed, but with it came a lot of stress. And as you can imagine, it took a toll on my body, but I didn't really realize it or really understood it. I just went about my business and, did what I had to do to get the job done. I later realized that it was my body's way of telling me I needed to get help. So I developed ulcers. One of the first things I learned about having a gastrointestinal disease was the routines you have to do to get by. Let me set the stage for you. Now, I don't know about you if you've worked the midnight shift before, but in the I guess in the public services, whether police, fire, paramedics, medical, even the maintenance, the road crew, working midnights is just a tough job in itself. Just working the midnight shift is just, I think you guys understand. It's something to be desired for. This was my routine. After I would eat lunch, and most of the time I would try to eat lunch or whatever you would call it. I guess a dinner, lunch, I don't know. I would try to find a place and eat with a group of either other officers or just a group of other people. Most of the time, I would have my meals with officers from other municipalities and sometimes paramedics and sometimes fire staff would show up at a restaurant, like one of those all-night diner type things, and I would grab my meal there. Well, shortly after that meal, I would start to think about where am I going to go. All right, because my stomach would start hurting pretty much instantly after I was done eating. So I would get back into my patrol car and think about where I'm going to go. Most of the time, it was someplace close by, or if I really could, I would drive back to the police station and go there. Here is what I would do, though. So on any given night, after a meal, I would head back to the police station and use the bathroom there. If you're not familiar with what a police officer wears, it's quite a lot. Let me explain it to you. I would wear, of course, the leather jacket. My stomach's already starting to brew, right? It's like the bubble guts are like in full go. Now, next, I got to start taking off my belt. So taking off the gun belt is a process in itself. So I'm taking off all these snaps and buckles and zippers and stuff. The gun belt comes off. Now I got to put my gun belt someplace. Now I have my uniform shirt. That's got to come off because in order to sit right without having my shirt or anything else fall into the john, for my own mind, I always wanted to take it off. So I take my shirt off. Now I have to take my bulletproof vest off and hang that up someplace. So that comes off. So now I'm down to my white t-shirt. Now I could finally go. By this time, you can only imagine how my anal sphincter is feeling right now. It is screaming. Usually as a result, there is some explosive, let's just say it gets pretty explosive there by this time. And a lot of white t-shirts were ruined because of that. So now I got to take this white t-shirt off and throw it in the trash and think about, now I got to put all this stuff back on without a t-shirt. Now I got to put all this stuff back on. And I'm thinking to myself, God, there's got to be a better way, man. This can't be the rest of my life. That's when I knew it was time to get some help. So I finally went to go to my doctor, and she told me that I needed to get a colonoscopy. And I told her, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm too young to get a colonoscopy. And there was no debate. She told me I had to do it and gave me the instructions. And I don't know if you've ever prepared for a colonoscopy. It's quite the ordeal. And even back then, it was It was something. And the night before a colonoscopy, you can't eat anything and you have to drink this stuff. And it pretty much is like liquid Drano. It just cleans you out in a most, I don't know, to me, in a violent way. It has to be done. We got to clean your pipes out because now the next morning, well, I'll talk about that in a second. The big day comes of the colonoscopy and I'm getting all geared up. I'm tired as hell. My stomach feels like I've been kicked, punched, I don't know, I'm caned, and I'm just plain tired from being up all night. I get to the hospital and I get wheeled in after, I wear that gown. And I'm looking at trophy wife and I'm getting ready to lean in to kiss her goodbye. And she stops and says, I thought I'm coming with. The doctor looks and says, yeah, that's fine. And I'm like, great. An audience. That's all I need is an extra audience member. But she loved it, man. So she took her seat. She's sitting there getting all settled in, and I'm just thinking to myself, why in the fuck does she want to see this procedure? But hey, she's my wife, and whatever makes her happy. So she's sitting there and I'm looking at her, and the only thing she's missing right now is just some popcorn. I mean, she's got a smile from ear to ear, shit-eating grin, and she's loving this. So I just got to ignore it and listen to the doctor's instructions. So I'm laying here on this slab. I'm laying on my side, and I get the injection of what I was told was Valium. Now, I don't know if you've ever taken any kind of narcotics before. It's quite an experience. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, but there's that scene where he finally takes that pill and then he touches that mirror and it touches on his hand and it crawls and then it crawls down his throat, right? Well, that's what it kind of felt like to me. I had this vision of going down this tunnel and just like very fast. That's what the experience felt like. Well, I'm like mid in dream state and the doctor asks me a question and I could kind of barely hear. All I hear is, hey, do you mind if we, and then it kind of phased out. And, she asked again, hey, do you mind? And I guess I just said, yeah, go ahead. No problem. I don't know what the hell I agreed to, but whatever it was going to change my view on an audience for the rest of my life. So I bet you're probably wondering, okay, well, where's this big break coming? Well, after I gave approval to the doctor of whatever I gave approval to, the doctor turned to the left, gave a nod, and the next thing you know, all I could remember hearing and seeing is double doors opening in this big room. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is quite a big room to have such a small procedure. Why is this room so big? And so next thing you know, like I said, these doors open up and I see a group of people walking and I'm starting to I'm trying to really focus. That volume is really kicking in, but I'm really fighting to stay awake. And I'm seeing what looks like two rows of people, 2 by 2 walking in, mostly women in lab coats. And I'm thinking, oh shit, what did I just agree to? And the doctor smiled at me and said, well, we have some medical students here. And I'm like, great. The little bit of conscience that I had left, I was able to just gather that I was pretty mortified at this point. I'm on this slab, lying on my side, and I had my eyes closed because it was getting cold, and I'm already assuming the worst, that there's a group of people around me, and they're just looking at what's about to happen. I open my eyes, and I look up, and there's like a big flat screen TV, the biggest fucking flat screen TV I've ever seen in my life. It must have been 100-inch screen. I mean, this thing was huge, man. And then the power came on and, I started to see light. And next thing I know, it's my ass is right there on this big screen, man. My ass is right there. And I could see that the camera was set on the table, pointing at my ass. I guess that was the place where that camera was about to go. So anyway, I think you could probably figure out where it goes from here. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. My big break finally came and I made it to the big screen. Some takeaways. That day, I learned a lot about trust. Not only trust in, my wife and not the medical staff, but trust in myself. I could have very easily said no to everyone being in that room, but, sometimes you just gotta live a little. The second thing I took away from that was, it was a good thing I shaved my ass that morning. Hey, thanks for tuning in, not tuning out. This is the Spaniard. Keep it tight. Spaniard out.